My name is Zach Smith. I work at the NFL as a statistical support specialist. On a regular day at the beginning of the week, I would go through games and audit them for when significant events should have been turned on, such as touchdowns, turnovers, field goals, and everything. And then I go through the reports for each game, picking out if significant events were late or missing, and then we pull those together and I look at some plays with a few coworkers of mine, determining if we should assess the events for the crews or make things informational so they won't count, but just know how they can improve for next time. And then we compile the data into reports and send them out to all 32 crews for how to improve on the significant events and let them know how they did in the past week and get them ready for their next game. And those are my weekday duties. And then on game days, we support the crews live at the stadium. We support them, making sure we get the significant events turned on at the right time. And we stay live through the whole game and getting the events on for each play as it happens. On game days, which go from Thursday nights and then all day Sunday and right through Monday night, we work with the crews, supporting them for getting all the stats right and turning on the significant events when they happen, such as touchdowns, field goals, turnovers, and getting those all correct as best as we can. Then during the week, we go back through the data and for both the statistical and the significant events side and make sure all the stats are correct, the significant events were turned on when they were supposed to. And then we meet for close plays to make sure that they're correct and seeing if something should be informational or if something should count with the crew for a particular player event. And then once we go through that data, we create reports to send to all 32 teams, letting them know how they did in their past game and what areas they need to improve on for their next game. Although I've watched football now the last 20 years of my life, there are a few statistical components that I didn't realize played a role in the stats we do for the NFL. And those include the split sacks, such as the two defenders getting to the quarterback at the same time, and they would get half sack credit, while if there was one defender, we would give him a full sack and watch those accumulate as the season goes on. And with tackles too, I didn't realize there were various ways to scoring a tackle, such as a solo tackle, a tackle and assist where someone gets a full tackle while another defender can get an assist for it, and there could be an equal tackle where both players get an assist for tackling a receiver or a runner. I've always been interested in math from a young age, and when I was 2-3 years old, I was memorizing math fact cards, which would have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and I would do it with my dad and my grandfather. He would show me a card: 4 + 3, 7, 6 - 4, 2, 4 × 3, 12, and I would go I would keep doing that and build my math skills with that, and they were so impressed by it. At such a young age, I was memorizing all those math facts. I knew that those numbers yielded together, and it took some time to understand the full idea of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and everything. And once I did, I became more successful at it, and I had a calculator as one of my toys as a 3-4-year-old, instead of a stuffed animal. That's what I would have as my toy that I would bring everywhere. And then ultimately, once I became better at math, I became my own calculator. I use math at work a lot with statistics, and statistics are all numbers. So whether it's rushing yards, receiving yards, everything, we add them up, and for positive yards that happen, but sometimes if there are tackles for losses and things like that, then we would subtract the numbers and adjust them accordingly. And with averages, we do division. We can determine how many the average number of yards a receiver has per reception, or how many yards a running back averages on carries he has, and all those play a big role in it as the season goes on with getting all the stats right and determining averages for all the players. We execute math at work by using Excel a lot, particularly with sending the reports out to all the stat crews, and we have formulas built into Excel to help add up the points for significant events that are late, or if they're incorrect stats. We would go through and add those up either manually, or Excel will do it for us, and then we would go ahead and send the crews their scores for the week. But we would also keep a running tally in Excel sheets with formulas with averages for a particular crew and how they're doing overall in specific categories relating to the stats. When the pandemic hit, it was very difficult for me to stay busy since the world was shut down and sports weren't going on, and I didn't have a lot of plans since everyone was quarantining during everything. But once the sports league started back up the summer of 2020 and we're starting to get back into a regular normal, I would keep statistics of all the sporting events going on, whether that be baseball, then the NBA and NHL playoffs begin that summer, and then the NFL season. I would write down all the big stats from every major professional game every day, and also include headlines going on from the world of sports. And then I would keep track of everything because of my passion for sports statistics, and that helped me keep busy during the pandemic and during my job search. And I kept doing those daily sports stats write-ups all the way through when I first got the NFL job. It would take, when doing the stats write-ups, it would about 2-3 hours of my day. I would, at night, right before going to bed, I would add all the scores and stats from every game, and that could take an hour or two. And then the next morning I would wake up, and if there were games still going on, particularly on the West Coast, I would add those scores in the next morning, include the headlines for the day in sports. It was almost like a little job, which was good to think about with that. And it wasn't a paying job, but it was still fun getting to do those statistics. And it did take a lot of my time, but it was a lot of fun. When I was 8 years old, and when I was starting to get more into football and statistics, I got my hands on the Record and Fact book, which had all the big statistics going on in the NFL, all the records being broken, all the best averages from the past year, and the entire schedule with lines to put in the scores. And I would use that book very frequently, almost every day, just about every day, and adding all the scores as they happened and going through the statistics for particular events going on, for records that could be broken. It became like my Bible for watching football and keeping an eye on all the stats. And I would get it every year and do the same thing year after year, going through all the stats and writing in the scores. And that's something I continue today, going through the book and using as a reference and looking at and following all the stats that can happen that year, and using math, knowing how many yards this receiver needs to break a record, or how many passing yards does Tom Brady need to have to break the all-time record. And I go through and add those up at certain points of the season. If he does have enough to break the record, then I jot it down that he did break the record. And it's very cool doing that each year and seeing the different records that can be broken by various players in different areas. Math does play a role in so many jobs, and it happens more than you realize. Even retail jobs, when given change or doing inventory about a certain item, it's important to have those math skills going in, and especially working in a job like the NFL where numbers come up all the time, not only in statistics, but for working with Excel for certain components, for doing reports, creating budgets, reviewing budgets, going over everything that goes on with a job. And it is very important to understand that math does play a role. And while you may not be doing the Pythagorean theorem every day, it's still important to know essential math skills and know the basics of knowing those and how they relate in a place like Excel, where a lot of people do work from in a particular job. And that's why those math skills are important in everything people do in their jobs.